So let's begin with the topic for today, which is the law of generation. Generation. Let's go first to the meaning of the word. For us, generation is to create things, to generate something, okay, to do something outside. But the origin of the word in Greek language is gen, gen, which is gen. And gen, it means origin. Gen means origin. And also this comes from the Indo-European language, which is also gen, that means to give birth. So that's the meaning, to give birth. So all the words that today we use, like gene, origin, genital, gender, all these words are coming from gene, okay, from this word. As you see, we today use the word gene for many things. It's important to know the origin of the word, because now we can use it in a different way, with a different idea. For example, today we are speaking a lot about the ideology of gender, but when we understand the origin of the word, gender is not related to what do you think about your sexuality, is about your origin, from where you come from, which is related with the genes. So it's not about the idea of what you feel about sexuality, is about the origin of where you come from, okay? So now we can understand that when we say ideology of gender, it's weird, because the same word is saying that it's not an ideology. It comes from the biology, the origin. So, for example, we have also the history of the origin that we know of Genesis. Also, we have the concepts of being unique and special that we call genuine or genius. And also the origin of a group of people that we call, there's no word English for this, people in Spanish is gente, that comes from that word. So regarding the law of generation, I spoke today in blog regarding the idea of God being the one that generates the things, being the origin of all the things. Something very simple. This is God. That is God, the unique. So God is basically this vacuum where all the things emerge. So this center of darkness, of vacuum, is the point from where the energy emerges to create the rays of light and everything that is around, which is this space. So that's why this is what we call the origin. So God, the divine, is a constant vacuum that is original. I don't know if you have seen this, but in a different way than we have begin the other laws that were created by the waves and so on. This is the seventh law. And even though I am already speaking about it, and I hadn't even begin to create the other ones. So I repeat again. The reason why we divide the 7 laws of the universe in these 7 steps is because our mind needs to put an order in a line to understand a process that happens in the infinite with no end and no beginning. Alpha, Omega. So I don't know if you know why to God they used to call it Alpha and Omega. This is because the ABC of Greece in times of Greece they said that God was the Holy Word. So the ABC that begin with the letter A, which is Alpha, and ended with the letter O, which is Omega, they said this is the whole cycle of creation. God is the cycle, a circle. So it begins and ends constantly. So that's why they call it the Alpha and the Omega. So today, for us, would be called the A and the Z. But for the Greeks, the last one was the O. So this divine is the Alpha and the Omega. So the Alpha is the mind and the Omega is the generation. Generation, we call it the last one of the laws on being created, but this one closed the cycle again. So that's why it begins again. It comes back to the origin. So generation is the beginning and the end of all the things. So the generation means that the gene, the origin, is the beginning and the end. So this takes us this idea that for the universe, it doesn't really exist a beginning or an end. Because in a circle like this, it's impossible to define where it begins and where it ends. It's a constant cycle. So there's no beginning and no end. It's constant. Remember, this is a consequence. So mentalism is the only thing that exists in the whole universe. So when the mentalism of the cosmos expands to the outside by correspondence, from that moment on, the mentalism will be called generation. You see it? And the reason why generation starts to be the main one is because once it polarizes itself, the joints of this polarity will be a new origin. So this origin starts to repeat once and again. To that origin we call cause. And the result of this cause is called effect. So in order to have different causes with the different effects, what we will need is to have or vibrate in different vibrations with different rhythms. Do you see how it's impossible to separate the universal laws? It's impossible to separate them because all of them are this. It's only one thing. As you see here, once the mind projected itself outside, everything that happened after that will be a reflection of the original idea, which this means generation. So this means that anything that could happen afterwards would be just a distortion and reflection of the original idea. So the whole picture is that everything is in mind, generating an idea, which is generation, that projects into the outside by correspondence, creating the polarity by this correspondence from the inside and the outside. And this polarity creates a middle point in the axis, which is another idea of generation, that is a cause. And this cause will create an effect that will bring this to generation. And the way you can transform a cause to create a different is by changing your vibration and the speed of the rhythms. For those who has been religious or rise up as a religious person, we will call this point God. Or for those who are not religious, we will call it the origin. Here there is only mind. The mind projects from the internal to the external, from the negative to the positive. So in this moment is when we leave the Big Bang, the great explosion. So here we come back to the negative and we leave the elements. So we have all the chemical elements, chemistry. Then we project them, creating galaxies. Then we go again to create worlds, the worlds. We come back again to create life. So we go down again to create evolution, and we come back again to create an individual. So from this breathing in of this being that is thinking about itself, wow, the Big Bang appears in the outside. And this Big Bang is the one joining the vibrations and energy, creating the chemical elements, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, etc. From the chemical elements, they start to get together, creating the galaxies, the suns, the stars. After the galaxies, around the suns and the stars, we have the worlds. And the worlds are those who doesn't have their own light, so they reflect the light. So these worlds, through the combination, the new combinations of the chemical elements, appear life. And from life begins the path of evolution, which is the different paths, histories that makes ourselves transform through time. And this is what generates a conscious individual. And this individual will live different lives with different experiences. So there comes the day when the individual becomes aware that it is also capable to generate through the mind. So this being through the mind says, okay, I am the creator now. So I transform the individual that I am. I begin a new path of evolution through the inside. I change my life. I conquer new worlds. I go and expand the galaxies within and outside. I accomplish to transform the elements, the chemical elements, to make alchemy. From this alchemy, I come back to the origin of all the material things, so I can become God again. As you see, each one of these dots here is a gene. So another origin. So this path going there we call it my, and this path coming back is called I am. Let's see it in another way. We have here some weird people all sharing together. All these things here are original beings. So this means that all of them have a self, an I, to refer to themselves, originals. So each one of us, each one of you there, you are an original, because each one of us has an origin. Each one of us has a different attribute of the origin. So that's why we say you have to awake the individual, the self of yourself. You have to awake your originality. We used to say these things, that we have to come back to the one, to the self of each one of us. And all of these beings are connected one another through a network. But what happens when we do this? What do you think about this? This is a cosmic brochet of people. Cosmic brochet of people. Do you know this stick that you put different things, food, and you cook it? Do you see these two waves, the positive wave, the negative wave? For the universe, this is a spiral. They are the chakras. Okay? Chakras. And this line we see here is the same dots that we see in these people, but without separation from the point of view of unity. This is eternal. It's not just sin. It's eternal and has thousands and thousands of curling shapes like the DNA when it creates a chromosome. So all this interaction of individuals is like a chromosome of God. When I say I am original, is true, because I come from the original. I come from the origin. But each one of us is in a different symphony. So each one of this will be unique. So this will be original being musician. This will be original being doctor. This will be original being an artist. This will be original being a loving a lover. This will be original being a teacher, whatever. So this means that in different symphonies, we all have originality. This is why we all have to be different. This is why we all have to be unique. Because if we are not unique, if we do all the same things, there's no evolution. We were said that we have to come back to the origin that we have, to the main origin of everything, but through our own originality. This is what we call come back to the I am. And this is why the only way we can really connect with the self is by generating things, generating life, generating projects, generating ideas, generating things. generating just with doing something. That's the way in which we connect with the origin that goes through all of us. The whole universe is connected to the origin, and this is why to connect with the universe, you have to originate things. And this is the law of generation in between so many other things. And if this was not really well understood, so maybe you need to look for another originals that shows you different ways to reach this information.